Hello, everyone. You are listening to the Let's Live with Alexandria Fraser podcast, a podcast where we talk about beauty, sports, and all around lifestyles. Also, I do lots of interviews with people from all over the world. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are new, welcome. I'm Alexandria Fraser, your host. And with all that being said, let's jump into today's episode. Today, I have a special interview. This is super cool. I think you are my first photographer on the podcast. So I'm really excited. If you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. My name is Cate Brown. I am an ocean-centric photographer out of Rhode Island, which is in southern New England. So I shoot a lot of ocean fine art, and I also do a lot of editorial and commercial work. So clients and brands in surfing, sailing, swim, outdoor lifestyle, and the like.
Awesome. So what would you say? So you said surfing, sailing, and what else?
Some swim, outdoor lifestyle in general. I try to
Awesome.
keep it like ocean themed because that's, what I'm close to. It's what I'm familiar with. But yeah.
Yeah. How did you get started into this like profession and sort of this area of photography?
I would say my photography was pretty much as a natural progression from a young interest. Like when I was, I don't know, 13 or 14 or so, I had my mom's old 35 millimeter film camera and I just loved it and I would use it all the time. So I took classes in high school and then just continued on to college, graduated with a degree in photography. Um, I came from a sailing background. I used to teach sailing. I grew up on the water. So I took my photography there first, kind of like the community I already knew and was familiar with. Shot a lot of regattas and sailboats and stuff, and then expanded from there. And I had always been interested in surf. I did it a few times. I started to learn, but once I got my camera in the water, like that was it. That was what I wanted.
Awesome. You said you like learned how to surf a little bit and everything. Do you still do it for fun or?
Not really that often. I would say it gives me more anxiety than satisfaction. The learning
Yeah.
curve is pretty intense for surfing. So I had gone a couple of times when I was a teenager. I had gone when I was in Australia as a tourist, and then when I was in my early 20s, I was going a little more regularly. But I have some shoulder issues, like they get inflamed pretty easily. So paddling was one of those things that I would have to work through all the time, and I would be really, overworking my shoulders, and I would get frustrated. So I never quite finished learning. I would say, I could catch waves, I could go straight, but that was kind of like where I stopped. I never really learned any other maneuvers or anything past that. But yeah, I swim pretty regularly, so I go out and I like to watch and be in the lineup still. So
Absolutely, and definitely your calling is the photography. And I was looking at the pictures; they are phenomenal. I want to say, for starters,
oh,
I of course they're so cool. And sort of what kind of inspired you to sort of take that next step? Because I've not really seen a lot of pictures like yours. I feel like you have a very unique like touch to them in the best way possible. And I don't know like how you sort of got into that.
thanks. Yeah, I would say, well, like I said, surf was always kind of something I was interested in. Like coming from sailing, it was another water sport. It's another lifelong sport. It's another way to be connected to the water and spend time outside. So even though being on a board wasn't really for me, I was already into my photography at that point. I was already post college, trying to figure out other avenues to explore, even just creatively, not necessarily for work. And so I got a housing, like the big things that you put over your camera, like you put your camera in this waterproof casing so that you can get it in the water. There are other options too, like GoPros and stuff that just can go right in the water. But I had the housing for like over a year before I actually got the courage to swim with it. Like I went in the harbor, like on my paddleboard, just to like be in the water and play with the settings, but not in any sort of like turbulence or surf. So it was kind of just like, all right, might as well do it. Like now's the time, now or never. I knew next to no one in the water. Like I was a total newbie. Like nobody knew my face or my work or anything. But I was really lucky. The community welcomes me and everyone was super friendly. And now I have some lifelong friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said that you're in New England, correct?
Yes, I'm in New England.
Do you only take pictures over there?
I've shot all over the world, really. I've taken trips to the Caribbean, to Europe, to the West Coast. I've taken, even like client work has sent me to the Caribbean and to Florida and the Great Lakes. So I've shot all over the place, but when it comes to what's most accessible and what I shoot the most, it's definitely my own backyard.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. That's really cool. What would you say is your like overall favorite of where you've been? Where you
Oh man, they're all so different. Like with my camera and like taking pictures, I went to Ireland in 2018 and that was gorgeous. We explored the West Coast a little bit. The Caribbean, is always gorgeous too. Like all the islands are a little bit different. Um, but I love temperate climates. I don't know, everyone loves to go to warm places and I'm always like, can we go somewhere a little more rugged and different? So maybe that's why I liked Ireland so much. But I don't know, I'll go pretty much anywhere and still be happy.
That's super cool. And that would you say Ireland was the coolest as well? Like one of the coolest places you've ever been?
Well, they're actually not any colder than we are in New England. If
Okay.
anything, New England will get colder than most of Europe, or at
Yes.
least mainland Europe. Even though they're on a higher latitude than us, like where we were in Ireland is pretty level with like Moscow. Like it's because of the Gulf Stream and the jet stream that ocean temperatures they pull like the warmer waters from Florida all the way up across the mid-Atlantic US and then across to Europe. So that's why they don't necessarily, like in England, like they don't get a lot of snow. Whereas here in Rhode Island in Massachusetts, like you can get snow pretty much every season. So yeah, if anything, we get colder than they do. But once you cross that Arctic Circle, like getting into like Norway and Scandinavia, like they're definitely colder. Like
Yeah,
Canada level cold.
definitely. Oh yeah, for sure. I can only imagine. And would you say like you find more peace when you like are in like the not as warm temperatures when you're shooting?
I would say it's just a bit more of a challenge, and I kind of like that challenge. I feel like there's less people around. Like people tend to gravitate to the more comfortable, warm climates. So usually when you're in a more temperate or a colder climate, there's just less people around. There's less distractions in that regard. Like there's fewer people, I feel like, watching what I'm doing. And I feel like all the communities that live in these colder climates or more seasonal climates tend to be a little, tighter. There's fewer tourists to a degree. There's a different type of community when you're here year round and you're experiencing this cold weather pretty regularly. So I enjoy the communities, even where I visited. Like it's the same kind of like, I don't know, everyone thinks New Englanders are all really salty and grumpy, but I feel like we're just all like, we know we're all kind of going through this cold season and we're all pretty warm and friendly with each other in that regard.
Yeah, and you said it was a challenge sort of shooting in the colder temperatures. Why is that?
It's cold. It's cold. Like, do you take cold showers? Like, it's physically challenging. It's mentally extremely
Mhm.
challenging. Like, that's where the community comes into play too, because you need your friends to help hype you up and get out of bed when it's pitch black and 40 degrees outside or colder. Like this week, we got temperatures in the mid 20s and it's so windy. And like, I've barely gone outside because I don't want to, but there's been no waves, so there's been no reason to go outside either.
Yeah.
Um, so it takes that extra effort just to be like, okay, this will be worth it. Like, at least my friends will be there. It'll at least be pretty outside, even if it's cold and miserable. Like, you risk frostbite and hypothermia if you stay in too long and you don't pay attention to your body and your surroundings. So it's more challenging, but I've always found it like so worth it.
Yeah, it's really rewarding after, I'm sure. It sounds like it. And
Absolutely.
how would you advise for someone to get into this profession? Like how would you like start to finish sort of?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm self-employed. I'm a freelance photographer. I do a little bit of everything from the fine art, the commercial, and the editorial. So there's a lot of different routes that you can take as a creative professional, but it's not for everybody. There has to be a lot of self-accountability. You have to be ready to set your own schedule and actually like hold yourself to it. And there's a hustle of finding clients for work, whether it's editorial or commercial. So it's kind of like there are days where like you're just in front of the computer, like getting rejected over and over, and you have to be ready to take that rejection and then also accept the opportunities that come your way when they feel right. So anyone who wants to get in it, it's just like you have to be a constant student. You have to be willing to learn and teach yourself and find ways to stay informed, whether it's through industry groups or just chatting with other professionals, and just constantly be reaching out and exploring, pushing your own boundaries and creatively and professionally. And it's a lot, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, what would you say is like the best and worst part about it? I mean, I'm sure there's not really a worst part, but like you said, it's
Well,
hard.
I don't know. The lack of a consistent income can be pretty awful at times, especially for me being seasonal. A lot of my shooting happens in the warmer weather when I can actually like have leaves on the trees for the background and basic things like that. So there's an ebb and flow to your income if you work seasonally. So you have to be prepared for that. Um, I mean, best parts is like getting to do what you love. It sounds so cliche, but getting to do what you love for work and for your profession. I mean, I centered my portfolio and my photography around what I love to do already, like the places I would want to be anyhow. Like you have people who do wedding photography because it pays really well, but their heart's not in it, and then they're stuck with that as their main source of income. So I feel like there's more longevity to it if you find a way to make your work around what you enjoy doing. But the only other downside is like you have to find a work-life balance, because
Yeah.
if it's stuff you like doing, like technically I'm always working, but sometimes you have to turn the working part of yourself off just to like enjoy it too. So finding the balance can be really difficult for a lot of people.
Did you think like 5 years ago that you would be where you are at now?
I hoped I would be. I don't know. Let's see, 5 years ago, pre-pandemic, gosh. Yeah, about 5 years ago, I was really making a concerted effort to be like, okay, exactly what do I want to shoot? Exactly what sectors do I want to be in? What would that look like visually? How can I build a portfolio for that? What clients should I be reaching out to help fill that? So it took a lot of like thinking about it and consciously executing it, but I'm kind of where I hoped I would want to be. I think everyone always wants more, like more assignments, more cool places to go, more big contracts, but generally speaking, I'm pretty darn happy with where I ended up.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I think it's super cool because like, I always think about it like I've always wanted to start a podcast, and then 5 years ago I would never. If someone said like, "Oh, you're going to start a podcast and you're going to be at your like dream college, and you're going to like," I'd have been like, "Yeah, okay, like good one." But no, that's awesome. I'm super happy that you feel that and like you're happy with it. I mean, I think it's a super cool profession, and I'm sort of trying to like I don't know, like get more into that world a little bit. I think it's super cool. My dream is to also surf, so I think that like everything is really cool. So I think that's awesome.
There's some overlap. Yeah, I mean, it's never too late to try something. Like, I'm in my 30s now, so sometimes I feel like I missed out on those learning opportunities. But like surfing, there are plenty of things you can try and start even later in life. Like, you didn't have to be good at everything from 15 onward to, and to enjoy it. You can start at any time and
Yeah.
find what works for you. It's a constant process.
Absolutely, I love that. When you're filming your like yeah, taking pictures, do you run into any sort of issues? I wrote down like if you're in the water and anything, obviously you have like the ocean life, there could be like a shark behind you. Have you run into any like issues, whether it's with other animals or people or even
Like
like
sharks.
temperatures? Yeah.
Um, I have not, thankfully.
Okay.
The biggest constant thing I have to be thinking about safety wise is like the tide and the currents. There are times where I've been out on like a bigger swell event and it's an outgoing tide and fading light. You want to make sure that you're out there with friends so if something happens, someone can come help you.
Yeah.
Um, so just like basic ocean awareness and stuff like that. I think a lot of people overlook, and I grew up with it. So like it's kind of second nature for me, but not everyone is ocean aware. Um, I mean, sharks kind of cruise by Rhode Island. They go from Florida up the mid-Atlantic with those warm waters, the jet stream, and the Gulf Stream rather. And they just kind of cruise by us and go to Cape Cod, and they hang out in Cape Cod, and then Nova Scotia too. So luckily, we're not a stopping point for them. But I have friends who live on the Cape, and they just like don't go in the water if they can help it, like unless the water's below 50 degrees, because they're cold-blooded animals. They don't like being in cold water, or they won't move. So yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about temperate and cold climates. Like, I don't have to worry about like as many venomous things or like as many
Right.
things like I don't know. The sharks aren't there either. I guess there's orcas to worry about if you go like into the Arctic, but I haven't done that.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary.
When you're swimming, you look like a seal. Like you're in this
Yeah.
black neoprene wetsuit with fins. Like you look like a seal.
Yeah, I would not like that. That's so scary. That's really
You
cool
have to
though.
not think about it. Just be like, okay, I'm close to shore. I don't see any seals. there's plenty of other people in the lineup. It's not just me. Okay, I
Right.
should be good.
Right, and you're just kind of like enjoying, like enjoying where
Right.
you're at. No, that's so true. That's super cool. And what would you say for now? Like, what does your future hold with the photography and just like everything for your profession?
I just kind of want to keep on keeping on, really. Just traveling when I can, pursuing the clients whose mission are and brand already fit within what I do. I don't like forcing my work into fit someone else's mission if it's not something that really vibes with me, what I already believe in. Like, it's a lot easier to work for clients that you kind of like vibe with. So, just, keeping the clients I enjoy, finding new clients. I really do enjoy commercial work. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to keep at it.
Yeah. And what would you say this far in your career? What has been your most like successful point to the point where you like sat down and you were like, wow, like I'm very proud. I'm very happy.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I mean, I've gotten some magazine covers. It's always cool to see your work in print, whether it's like a cover or an interior. Like, I love seeing my work in print. Um, I've been in a few group exhibitions. I haven't really had any big solo exhibitions or anything like that for my fine art work, but I don't know. I don't think there's any like one golden thing that's happened. So, yeah, there's a lot of great things that I'm proud of for sure, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really cool, the magazine. When you like saw your work, were you just like starstruck about yourself? Because that's how I would
Kind
feel.
of, kind of. I think my first cover was really early on. It was like 2017 or so. It was a cover of Sail magazine. They're a pretty big publisher and publication in the sailing world. And it was a family friends boat. We were out sailing for Wednesday nights and got a picture from boat to boat of them sailing in some beautiful light, and it made the cover. And I was like, oh man, this is pretty darn cool. So, um, that was really early on in my career, but I've gotten a few other pieces in, outside magazine, not in print, but on their online, National Geographic online. Like, there's a few places my work turns up, and I'm like, okay, that feels cool. I
Yeah.
could do more of that.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Well, I'll definitely be looking out for more of your posts and everything, of
Thank
all
you.
your work. But yeah, if you do you want to like say your social media so everybody can like go check it out?
Absolutely. So my professional page is Cate Brown Photo, CATE Brown Photo .com. I've got my commercial work and my fine art work there, and all my social is Cate Brown Photo, CATE Brown Photo. Lots on Instagram, not really anywhere else, but and then I do moderate a community page for cold water women and surfers, highlighting as many female photographers in that climate as I can. But there are guys who shoot the ladies too, and I'll feature their work. That's 3 Degree Seas, THREE Degree Seas.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. This was such a fun conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of course. It was so nice to meet you.
Oh, you too. And best of luck with all of your dreams and goals.
Thank you. Thank you so much.